Just being honest. Nothing but the truth, yeah. Nothing but the truth, yeah. Honesty, CJ, honesty. CJ, honesty. CJ, honesty. CJ, honesty. Just being honest. Nothing but the truth.
Welcome to another episode of
CJ Honesty.
And today we are still talking about mothers. Last week we celebrated Mother's Day.
Shout out to all the mothers out there.
Yes.
Single mothers, foster mother, all the mothers. Doesn't matter what. If you have mother, that's all good.
Guardians.
Yep.
And today we are talking about single mothers. We want to give honor to all the single mothers out there. Thank you for being strong. Continue being strong in what you do and how you do it in your life and raising your children. Today we have two very strong, individual, independent, single mothers. And it is an honor to have them on the show on today to give us some input on day-to-day life of being a single mother and how to deal with some of the things that a single mother might have to deal with, and hoping that we can encourage some people, maybe some single mothers listening out there on today. But we have the same scripture that we had last week. Let's read that to you real quick. Strength and honor, Proverbs 31, 25 through 31, excuse me. That's Proverbs chapter 31, 25 through 31. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come.
Amen. Amen. That's good. That's very good. Well, that's what we have to strive to be strength. Have the strength to get through. I mean, women, we go through a lot. Childbirth, all that.
Yeah. So let's introduce our first guest. You want to introduce Danielle, Christina?
Yes. All right. So she is my friend, my best friend, Danielle Tiggett. She is 28 years old, single, and a hardworking mother. And she works in the medical field as a CNA, which is a certified nursing assistant, and an OA, which is office assistant. And she also has multiple license and training certifications. She loves her job very much, and she's also very dedicated to her job. She has a 3-year-old son named Connor, who is her whole world and biggest blessing. And her hobbies include reading, working out, going for walks, and shopping. I love shopping too. She enjoys cooking new recipes and even has a side cooking business for the community in which she lives in. Awesome. Welcome to our podcast. Finally.
We gotta get Natacha on there too. Natacha is from Camden, New Jersey. But she resides in Philly. Shout out to Philly cheese steaks. She serves the Lord. She believes in the Lord. She got her hobbies are gaming and nature exploring. And it is an honor to have her on the show as well. So welcome to the show, Natacha and Danielle. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You want to hit them off? Let's go straight into it. Let's go straight into it. Hit them up with that first question.
Hit them with that first question. All right, here we go. Y'all ready? Okay. So, how did the pandemic, if at all, affect your life being as a single mother? How did that really change your guys' views on money, or even how to take care of your children or your child? I guess who should we?
You want to start off?
I guess Danielle. Yes, Danielle.
Okay. Well, the pandemic in general was obviously unexpected for everyone. Nobody was really prepared for the pandemic to come across. Being as though I'm in the medical field, it was a lot harder for me, and probably a lot of other people in the medical field per se, because not only is this virus been deadly, but I had to think about the safety of my child and my family during this entire pandemic. And I actually still am, even though things seem to be going back to normal, it still doesn't feel 100% normal. So I had to make sacrifices and make some big decisions in a very short matter of time. I had to move away and separate myself from my family and my son and move on and do what I needed to do so they would be safe. Um, of course, money was tight. It became tighter due to the fact that things weren't really open. We had very short resources of stuff. But the main thing that I had to focus on was the safety of my child. It was very hard not seeing my son for months or weeks or days at a time because I didn't want to put my family at risk of catching the virus. And I also had to look out for myself, of not catching the virus, not knowing what this virus was going to do or how it was going to out. Every single day was a struggle in the pandemic since it started, because I didn't know if I was going home with the virus, if I washed my hands enough. I didn't know if I had enough PPE on, or did I put enough PPE on. It was a very, very big struggle. And I'm very grateful for my son's grandparents, because they stepped up, they helped me, they were able to care for my child during the pandemic. But like I said, the hardest part was not being able to see him. Getting tested 1 to 2 times a week. Then it turned into 3 times a week, making sure that I was negative before I even came in contact with anybody was very, very stressful and annoying, honest. But I would say that was probably the hardest part, was not seeing my child.
So did you find other ways to see him? Like, did you video chat and
Yeah,
use?
yes.
Okay, that's good.
I would FaceTime my stepmom every night so I could see Connor going to bed or ask how his day is going. And then once halfway through the year, when things started to kind of slow down, we didn't have to wear as much PPE. When I would get tested on a certain day of the week, wait 24 to 48 hours to make sure I was negative, and then only go to my dad's house. I wasn't going anywhere else. I wasn't out partying or anything like that, but I would make sure that I was always clear before I would even step around them. But I was still wearing a mask. It was just something you got immune to, was wearing the mask. There were times where I will be honest, there were times where I did take a chance. Say I got tested on a Monday, you don't get the results until Wednesday. I might have saw Connor Tuesday, because it just hurt me so deep down inside to not be able to see him. So I would, give it to God and trust in God that I was negative, and would take that chance and go see him a day earlier than I should have. And of course, obviously, everybody as well. And, it's just the sacrifices you had to take.
Yeah.
What about you, Natasha? How's the pandemic treated you in your single motherhood?
So with me, it was kind of the same with Danielle. I didn't have my son around. Right when the pandemic first happened, there was, news being put out that, we were going to be shut down for about 2 weeks, and then everything was going to go back to normal. And those 2 weeks ended up turning into like 4, 5, 6 months. And so what happened was, me at the time working for security, I was considered an essential worker. So I had to go to work no matter what. And then being a single parent and not having that hand to step in, it was a bit tough. And so what happened was, when that pandemic first happened, I had called his grandparents. I said, hey, listen, this is an emergency. Could you guys come and get your grandson? I have to go to work regardless. And again, the 2 weeks turned into like 4 to 5 months. So I was away from him for that long. And there were other ways of contacting him. I was FaceTiming him, and he's in a completely different state. I would FaceTime him. I would read stories to him. I would, play like little games or whatever was to have that interaction with him, and it didn't matter how far it was. And so that was the tough part. Financially wise, by the grace of God, I was still stable. I was still able to work. I was still able to do what I needed to do. So that way, when the time came around and this pandemic broke off and we're able to reunite, I was still good. I would still be good. So that was my most challenging aspect, from being away from my son for that long. But on the brighter side, that's when I came to Christ. And that's when I found the Lord. I found the Lord through this pandemic. I drew closer to him than I've ever done. And it was such an amazing experience. It was a heartache, but there was an amazing experience behind that. And I believe that Christ had set me in this placement to prepare me for what the future holds. So that was my experience throughout the entire thing.
Wow. So that was your experience, you guys' experience. Now with the pandemic, but initially when you first became a single mother, like it really hit you like, okay, I'm a single mother now. What are like some of the initial things that really came to you where you said, okay, I'm gonna have to learn how to deal with this as a single mother? Like, we know that there's multiple things that you had to deal with, but what are some of the first things that really came up to you? And Natacha, you can go ahead and go first, and then Danielle, you can tell us your experience with that as well.
So the initial things I had to basically do is fend for myself, fend for my own, knowing, again, I didn't have that extra hand. I didn't have that, partner or figurative role model other than myself from my son's life. And, as a single mom, we know and we understand that having a boy, there's certain things that a boy cannot be taught that only a man can. So having the comprehension level of, okay, I am his mother, but I also have to play the role as his father as he gets older. And, just having that, time with my son, and also another thing too is, basically rearranging my life, working around my schedule, working around his schedule, fitting myself into what I have to accustom as a parent with my son. So those are some of the things that I have to basically get accustomed to, because technically speaking, his father isn't in his life. So I have to do all of this on my own.
Well, what about you, Danielle? With those, what were some of the initial problems that you felt like you had to learn how to deal with when you first realized you was like, okay, it hit you like you're a single mother and you're gonna have to do certain things?
I definitely agree with Natacha. It's basically you have to tell yourself as a single mom, like, hey, you're alone and it's time to step up. Like, not only step up, but you got to grow up even more. Maturity level definitely has to be at 100, because now it's not just about you, it's about your child as well. Everything is you and your child now. It's no longer just you. So, knowing that you're not going to have that significant other or partner, like Natacha said, by your side. And as much as it may hurt deep down inside, you have to do what you have to do for your child or children. So I had to keep praying. I prayed even harder because it's like, okay, God, I need you to really lead me now, because I have another human that I'm responsible for and that I love and I have to take care of and provide for. So the struggle of knowing that you're not going to have somebody by your side. You can't just pick up the phone and be like, okay, yeah, you got me. Or, I need help with this, or I need help with that is out the window because you don't have anyone. You are playing both roles as mom and dad. And like Natacha said, there are some differences, but similarities, whether you have a son or a daughter. But when you have a son, it's like you really, really have to step up because the male figure is not going to be in your son's life. And like Natacha said, my son's father is not in his life. So we really can only depend on the only male figure, which is God, as far as leading us and teaching us and trying to show us and help us. Okay, you're going to make it. And this is what you're going to need to do for this child, boy, girl. But as far as having a boy and knowing that the male figure is not there and that's who you would rely on, mom has to step up to the plate and play those roles for the rest of your life.
Well, I commend you both for stepping up as a mother and doing what you have to do because I really respect you guys because it's hard. I can only imagine, but now I see like you guys are giving a great insight on what it can be, Yeah.
It's a challenge just to the idea you have a hard time on your own, living your own life. And the idea of having another human being being your responsibility is a lot on its own anyways. Not even taking into the fact that on top of that, now you're doing it by yourself. So I could only imagine. So shout out to all of the single mothers out there.
So our next question is, what were some the first like initial differences that you found from being a single person to being a single parent? And I want to start with Danielle.
I will say one of the first things, and I'm very sure Natacha can agree with me, is that you can't just get in the car and go anymore. The freedom is pretty much gone. So now I'm like, okay, like it's just now it's more preparedness, more planning out. Being a single person, you can take your time, do what you got to do what when you want to do it, and not have to worry about anything that's holding you back or stopping it. Once you become a single parent, it gets frustrating at times, but now you really have to map everything out, plan everything out, make sure everything's going to go accordingly. Have a backup plan if the initial plan does not work out. So I will say that's definitely one of the differences. The second difference I could say is financially. You are not able to splurge as much when you're a single person and then being a single parent. Being a single parent, you end up putting the child's needs first, which is what I would hope every parent is doing, is, all that luxury that you had, prime example, whether it's getting your hair done, getting your nails done, that has to wait. I would rather my son be well dressed, be well kept first, and I struggle and look a mess.
Say that again. Say that again.
Guys, you wake up and you're like, you know what? I guess this is what it's going to be, but I'll make sure it's going to be right with my child.
I agree with you on that, but I also it's about sacrifices too. That's why I'm here, but also I'm also thinking like if you saying that you rather look a mess, but I'm big on self-care as well. Right. So I think as a mother, it's hard to do it, but you have to take care of you before you can take care of someone else. Absolutely. So so even I get it. I
when
get
it
what
comes
you're saying,
to your mental and
your mental, so I do agree with you on that, but I also agree with the self-care. Was
talking about more so like
what sacrifices?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but like buying clothes and getting your nails done and stuff like that.
Okay, so the
material.
Okay,
she was talking about materialistic.
Oh,
things.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was kind of starting to think. Wait, I need you to take care of yourself.
Yeah, no.
I need you to take before.
Yeah, the having
Oh,
fun
too.
part is put to the side.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah. Got you.
What about you, Tasha? What's the difference between you being a single person to now you being a single mother?
Oof. Responsibility.
I heard
Just
you
like
on that.
Danielle said, you cannot hop in the car and you cannot just drive off and be like, well, it's just me. I'm doing me. I'm loving me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No, you have a child or children. And, as she said, your child comes first, and, being single, you know, you were just able to just do me, stay as late as you want. You could wake up whenever you want. You work as many jobs as you want. But now that you have your child comes first. That's first priority.
Mhm.
And, having a child and putting on this responsibility has made me grow up. Oh, because I was immature. I was immature, but I grew up. I learned from my experience. I've learned from my mistakes. I've learned to love. I've learned to do plenty of things that I would have never seen me be able to do or be in a particular light before I even had my child. And I'm so grateful, to God's blessing in my life. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I would not. I'm enjoying every single moment. I if I had the option to, I would choose this life than just the single life, because the single life sucks, and just being a single parent and having that, that mini me, that ride or die, that somebody that's always going to love you no matter what is just absolutely amazing. And the experiences and the differences are there between the two, and I'm just enjoying my little one.
Wow. So we heard both of you, and this will be probably the last question for this episode. But we heard both of you mention it a little bit before when we was talking, actually, with you having, whether it's a girl or a boy, but specifically when you are a mother raising a boy, how do you handle that as far as like him becoming a man, and the father is not there? How do you say, okay, and this isn't disrespect to any woman out there, but the same way a man can't necessarily teach a young girl how to be a woman, he can instruct her on, some good qualities, but he's not a woman himself, so he can't really instruct her how to go to CVS and maybe buy some things that she needs to buy, for women purposes.
Feminine products.
Yes.
Yes.
He probably would get maybe a sister or a grandmother to teach her some of those woman things, and being feminine and everything. So as single mothers raising boys, how do you raise your son and make sure that he's still, of course you nurture him because you are his mother, but how do you make sure that he has that masculine, keeps that masculine energy about him?
Who you want to start with?
Natasha, you can go ahead.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, trust God. That's the best advice I can give to anyone, is to trust God. Put your whole dependency on God. Just like Danielle said, our male role model and who we look to is Jesus. And that's what we need to do. That's front lines right there. But as far as, everyday lessons and, being the best parent that you can be, whether you're playing the role of a mother or a father, being there for them, being nurturing to them, giving them life lessons, how to respect people, and that in sense of, manners, that's in sense of speaking to people a certain way, that's in sense of, just going on about life and learning responsibility as they get older. And there may come a time, and this has happened plenty of times before, but there may come a time where, a male role model will come in, whether that be an uncle or a father or a grandfather or an older brother. You'll have your help, from male figures, but there are still a lot of us that don't have that. So the best way that I know how to show my son, hey, it's okay to have that sensitive side, because that's what they'll learn from us females. But you also have this exterior of how to be a man, is just to be that role model for him. Be that role model of everything conjured up into one for him.
Gotcha. What about you, Danielle?
Excuse me. But yeah, basically, it's almost like I don't want to say you have no other choice, but obviously in certain situations that is the only choice. But it's almost like it either comes naturally, or you get accustomed to just doing what you know is best, or you look at your background, or you put yourself in your child's shoes, and it's like, okay, me as mom, I want to teach Connor respect. I want to teach him loyalty. I want to teach him honesty. I want to teach him right from wrong. We're doing that every day. But you more so, it's almost like you more so as a mother are looking at it like, well, how would I want my son to treat people? How would I want my son to treat a woman when he's older? This is what I know. Or we also may look back on our ancestors and see how they were treated. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting advice from grandparents sometimes, even though grandparents can, either do a bit much or be old school or whatever. But sometimes at least having some type of background, getting advice from others. And of course, like Natacha said, just following God. If you have to get on your knees and pray and ask God to really guide you and show you, or give me some type of signal of how to raise this little boy, then that's what you have to do. But it's almost like, because we're already playing both roles, okay, let's teach him regardless, this is what it's going to be: respect, the loyalty, the honesty. It's good. There's going to be complicated situations regardless, but we just have to try and do our best. That's it.
Wow.
I have a question though when it comes to
Actually,
boys.
we don't have time for any more questions. We'll save that for part 2. Come back for part 2 of Christina's question. You'll catch it on there.
Yes.
But we want to appreciate everybody for listening to this first part of Single Mothers. We hope that it has encouraged you and brought some input. But this has been another episode of CJ Honesty. Peace and blessings.
Just being honest, nothing but the truth.